I just want to go through book reports and also go through APA7 and just kind of help you a little. That's the main aim. The reason for this is because this is a core course, it has to have this emphasis on good referencing and correct citation. Otherwise, it doesn't really come into a core course, because that's part of a core course, having this written work and doing it well. So I'm just going to help you with that. So what do you think the goal of a book summary is?
To make sure that we understood the principles of the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
It's a way to review the book so that we retain more knowledge of what we just read.
Yeah. 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 So when we do it, when we're doing the book summary, we're taking in the book, we're understanding it exactly as the author said it, and then we're summarizing it in our own words without taking anything he said out of context. So we might not agree with it, but we are summarizing exactly what he is stating, which can be quite a challenge sometimes. And we're restating his main point and his purpose for the book and his intent. So all that. And then this helps us to, as you rightly say, to understand and analyze and then be able to evaluate the book at the end. So we want to grow in our learning and in our teaching and in our preaching, which is why there is this emphasis on reading books within this school, because it's not just that we read them within this school, it's actually that we are continuing to read it and continuing to go see all the different ways that people are thinking. And when I talk to Renaud about the crucifixion, there are lots of other ideas and thinkings and people going deeper and really pondering on the crucifixion and coming to different conclusions. And it's good for us to actually have a grasp on it, what everyone else is thinking, if we can. And we can only do that through reading books and understanding. And then that can bring us to a deeper revelation of what we think, what others think. So often when you read books, you'll have a bibliography of where they've got their information and they're backing up what they believe based on other people's thinkings. So how do we do a book summary? I'll just go through some pointers. We can look at the chapter headings, because that's going to summarize each chapter. We look at the whole book. There'll be a title, Preaching, and then what comes after that title is still a part of the title, and in Tim Keller's book. And that will tell us what the whole main idea, what the whole content of the book is about. And then looking at the subheadings, they will summarize what he wants to say under that subheading. And it's not to just copy the subheading and say this is the content. It's actually to look at the subheading and think, yes, that's the heading of what he's talking about. And then what is he really saying in all this that I can just summarize in my own words? And so, as I've mentioned, you don't want to say anything new. You just want to summarize what he's saying. But you may want to write down thoughts or underline your thoughts or what you agree with or what you don't agree with, so that when you come to the end of your book summary and then you have to make your own conclusions, you don't have to then think, oh, what did I think there? I know I don't agree with something, but I can't think what it was. So you've actually either written it down or you've underlined it and put big question marks or however you do it, or big reds or whatever. And then you can flick back, or you can look back to your Word document or whatever where you've written it down and you've made a point. This was really good and this has changed the way I'm going to preach. Or I'm not sure about this and I'm not sure I understand what he's saying and this is challenging, so I need to rethink this. Or I'm really not sure I agree with this. So when I come to my conclusion, I'm going to say, I don't agree with this, because it's good to really wrestle with what the book is saying and to come to our own thinking and thoughts about it. And also remember page numbers. So if you write down, I don't agree, or this really changed me, remember to put the page number down or mark it in the book, because otherwise you'll come to the end and you'll have to try and find it. And these are obvious things, but they happen, and they've happened to me, so that's why I emphasize it. So when you've done your summary of each chapter, and I would suggest with the next book that you also summarize the appendixes that he makes, because there's quite a few. You can then go back to that book at some point and you can look through your summaries and you have a pretty good idea of what the book's about. So you don't have to read the book again unless you want to. You have everything there, every point that he's really saying in each chapter, and it will bring to mind what's in the chapter. And then if you want to go through it more deeply, you can. But you might read your summary statement of a chapter, which might be a paragraph or two, and then you think, yeah, I understood what he was saying. But then you might think at one point, oh, I want to read that chapter again. I understand the context of everything he was talking about, but I want to look more into that because I know that was challenging at some point, and I think what he said might be good, but I didn't agree with it at the time, something like that, or whatever. And so at the end, you then do your final conclusion where you are, having digested and observed the whole book and summarized it, you are then making your own conclusions about what actually changed how you preach or teach and what you might do differently as a result, or what really challenged you, or what you really agreed with and emphasized something that you already do and so was encouraging in that sense, but something to show that you've related to everything that he's teaching through the book and what that meant to you. So it can be good to have where you didn't agree as well as where you agree. So if you just said, it's a great book, I enjoyed it, loved every word, that doesn't tell anyone or tell yourself or whoever, or me who's looking at it, whether you really engaged and understood and whether the book meant anything to you. Is that clear? Do you have any questions? So 4 double spaces from the top, you get to the title of your page. And the margin should be 1 inch in either side, and that's the default on every computer. And if your computer is different, then you'd do that. But generally there is a default that is normal, and every computer, unless you change the margins, it's generally 1 inch either side. You note that the page numbers are on the top right, and you put those in. And when you come to the title page, the title is in bold, and it's in the center, and it's in title case, which means that most of the big words start with a big letter, a capital letter, but the little words like the prepositions and of, ands, those little things have a little letter. And then everything is double spaced. So then you do 2 double spacings and you put your name. And then I put University of the Nations. And then you put the name of your school. So it's the Biblical Teaching and Preaching School. And then you put the date. So all that is double spaced and it's all centered. And you'll notice that the title of the page is all in the same font. There's no New Times 14 for the title and then 12 for the rest of it. The font is all 12. It's very detailed, but it's very important that we get whatever format is needed right. And there are lots of different formats and they all require a different style. And this is one style of many. Is that all clear for the first page? Any questions? This will have a page of its own. And then you will come to your page 2, which is the second page, and it will be on a new page. And you will have exactly the same title as you have on your first page. And it's at the top, and it's centered, bold, and it starts a new page. Your paragraphs are always indented. Some formats, they are flush, so they're to the side. In APA7, they're always indented, apart from the abstract, and I'm not going to go into that. That's something that we're not doing. So it's always indented. And then again, always double spaced. Font's all the same, and it's left align. So it's not justified. You don't press the justify and have the right justified. It's left align. And when you have a full stop, or as what you call a period, I think, you just press the space bar once. Some formats in the past, maybe, I'm not sure if it still carries on, it's been 2 times, but it's just the once. And then you click enter, and the next paragraph is then indented, and it's just double space. There's no 2 double space or anything like that. It's all just double space. Any questions? If you want to write, and you will write, a heading, level 1, so you want to write a heading, it will be center and bold and written in the title case, like chapter 1, Between You and Me, which is the first chapter of Alec Mottier's book. If you want to have a heading level 2, so you want to have a heading, and then you're going to have another heading within that, under the first heading, then it is heading level 2, and then it is flush to the side and left and bolded and written in title case. And heading level 3, again, this is in italics, and it's flush left, bolded, written in italic case. And then heading level 4 is bold and not italics, but it's indented. And you won't be doing level heading 3 in this book report or heading level 4. But in your research paper, I would have thought you might well be doing heading level 2. You will be certainly be doing heading level 1. You might do heading level 2. Who knows, you might do heading level 3.
Will we do heading level 2 course?
Unlikely, but who knows? If you do, this is what you'll do. Yeah. Because you're only really doing 2 paragraphs. You're only really doing... although, in Keller's book, he divided the book up into 3 parts. So then, each part would have probably been heading level 1. Yeah, and then you probably would have had heading level 2 as each chapter under that part. So then you would have done. And then we come to the references. And if you're only, I've given you example of references. So if you're only doing a book summary on one book, then you take the S off the references because you've only got one reference. So it's reference. And it's not bibliography, as in some formats, it's reference in APA7. So it would just be reference. And you have the surname, the comma, the first initial, full stop, in brackets, the date of the publication, full stop, preaching, and this is the full title, Preaching, Simple Teaching on Simply Preaching. So that's the full title of the book. It's not just the main heading, Preaching. That's the full title. And then you've got the publication. And then there's some examples from my own sources of how to lay out APA7. And you've also got the student template and the student big PDF that I sent you as well, which has much more information. And also reference goes on a separate page. So you don't finish your writing and then put reference straight after. And you'll notice still that everything is double-spaced. And you'll notice that the second line is indented, whereas the first line is flush to the margin, and then the second line is indented, and that's the way it's laid out. And then the third line's indented as well. That's the way the references are laid out. So this is just the way that APA7 does it. But when you do a citation, you have the author and then the date of the publication, author, comma, date of publication, comma, page, P, dot, and then the number of the page. And if you have any questions, do ask. And finally, we want to just look at research papers. So you will be covering at least religion and geography and history and the economy and politics. And it's to help you when you go into those situations that you actually understand what's happening as well. And then your interview with someone, in your reference, you will put down the date when you interviewed that person. And your conclusion. Your introduction is an introduction to what you're going to say. So it sums up what the paper is about, what you're going to say. And then the conclusion really is a conclusion of what you've said. So in some ways it repeats the introduction, but it brings it to a conclusion. of what's already been said, and you're not adding anything new. So when you conclude, you're not going to, it's like doing a preaching. You're not just going to suddenly add another fact into the conclusion. And it's 3,000 to 4,000 words. And so you want it, that's quite a big margin to keep within, but you do want to keep within that and make sure that you're within that. And there will be a minus 10% if the word count's over. It's not a long paper. You might have statistics in the religion, and I encourage you to have lots of pictures and maps and do everything correctly, like do the reference and everything and the format, do it correctly, but in the same sense have fun with it and bring in the culture and have pictures of the culture. If people go to tribes and places like that, and then it's great to have all that information. It makes it more visual and comes alive.